Hello guys, gals, non-binary pals, and waterfowls. I'm Big Mike, and welcome to a new video series I am tentatively calling Big Mike's Indie Game Watch. A series where I plan to talk about indie games that are still in development that I am absolutely excited about. Now, depending on how much information is available about the game, what stage of development it's in, some videos are going to be longer than others. Sometimes we may only have, a Steam page to go by, or a trailer, or a couple images. But, like in today's case, sometimes it's going to be a demo to look at. And fam, you better buckle up, because we are going to be in for a crazy ride today. In this video, we're going to be looking at a game that has had my attention for quite a while now. We're going to be talking about the Edge of Allegoria. And just a forewarning, if you're in a situation where you can't hear the F-bomb being dropped, or anything sexual being talked about, or if any of this type of content offends you, you're going to want to turn off the video now. And if that's the case, I completely understand. No hard feelings. I will see you in the next one. This is your last chance. Now, the Edge of Allegoria, just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with here, the developer describes it as, "This ain't no fucking children's game." Now, I gotta try to get through this video without getting it restricted. Can Big Mike make it? Let's find out. Now, before I get into talking about the video game itself, I just want to point out, as I mentioned earlier, this game does have a demo out. And that's what you're going to be seeing in the background, playing as I'm talking. However, I just want to point out that what you're seeing is going to be edited footage, so it's going to skip around a lot. And this is partially due to the fact that the game has some rather nice, especially when you consider the fact that this is meant to be a Game Boy game. It has some rather nice angel tits. And, well, on YouTube, I can't show angel tits, so we're going to be skipping that. But also, I may show some stuff to highlight some points that I'm talking about. So, for example, when I talk about the battles, I'll probably throw a battle up on the screen to kind of illustrate the point, and similar things like that. So just kind of keep this in mind. You're going to be seeing some gameplay in the background, but it's not going to be linear. And without further ado, let's jump into talking about this game, fam. The Edge of Allegoria is a forthcoming game by Button Factory Games, and it's heavily inspired by and is a parody of the first generation, or maybe even the first two generations of Pokemon for the Game Boy. I was a huge fan of Pokemon growing up. I happen to have grown up right in the middle of Pokemon Mania. I started playing Pokemon Blue and Yellow about 9 months before Gold and Silver hit the US. So it's very much a huge part of my childhood. So when I saw a game like the Edge of Allegoria, I immediately knew I had to get my hands on this. Also, the screenshots I saw, the humor in it was right up my alley. The game itself, it doesn't yet have a release date set. However, it has been in development since 2022, and it's come quite a long way since then. Now, with all that basic info out of the way, I want to start talking about some specifics of this amazing game. And the first specific is the story. And, well, specific might not be a good word to use here. And I'm not shitting on this game by any means. In fact, I love this game. I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't. However, if you played any of the Pokemon games, there's this grand adventure that you set off on. And so with a demo, it can be a bit hard to piece together a story with so little. However, luckily, the Steam page gives some details about a story. So let's check that out. In regards to the story, the Steam page reads, "There's a story in there somewhere. It's just buried under layers of madness and debauchery. If you think grinding for experience and mastering weapons is tedious, try unraveling this Gordian knot of a narrative. Does it have a deeper meaning? Absolutely. Does it matter? No. It's just a video game. Just enjoy it and stop worrying about what kind of subliminal messaging the developer is trying to inject into your subconscious." The developer is not afraid to have fun, not afraid to make jokes. And you know what? That's one of the things I really, really enjoy about this project. But I'll come back to this later on, though. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the aesthetics. Now, in regards to the graphics, the overworld and the battle screens are both heavily influenced by the first generation, or perhaps the first two generations of the Pokemon games. Man, that should come as no surprise. However, influences and inspirations I feel like are a bit more eclectic than that with this game. There's this one particular part, especially the first dungeon or first cave that belonged to the goblins. It kind of gave me a Legend of Zelda NES vibe. I'm not sure if that's just me reading too much into it. Maybe it's the music that I'm going to get to in a bit. But I don't know. I kind of got that feeling when I was playing that part of the game. And speaking of music, the music too is heavily influenced by the Pokemon games, as well as other 8-bit games. Now, I personally like it. I really love the music here. But I grew up, blasting, the first two generation of Pokemon games music throughout my headphones hooked into my Game Boy. So I grew up listening to that. In fact, hell, even sometimes I even listen to the Gold and Silver soundtrack now just because it slaps. But your mileage may vary. What I really do like about the aesthetics of this game, both the sound and visual aesthetics, is that while they both take inspiration from the Pokemon games as well as other 8-bit Game Boy and maybe NES RPG games, is that while it takes that inspiration and makes it something unique. So what you're seeing, it's something you can see the influence, but it's different from what influenced it, if that makes sense. Now, next I want to move on and talk about the gameplay. Now, if you've ever spent any time with the original Pokemon games for the Game Boy, then the overworld here is going to feel very, very familiar to you. You start off in your hometown, and you travel from place to place, completing quests to make more of the map accessible. And as you travel in the wilderness, you're going to come across wild battles or wild encounters. And this is where the Edge of Allegoria really starts to set itself apart from its inspiration. Now, unlike in the Pokemon games, in order to have a wild encounter when you're out in the middle of the wild, you have to be walking in the tall grass. However, here, being out in the wilderness, out in the forest, functions very much like being in a cave in the original Pokemon games. A battle or an encounter with a creature can happen anywhere at any time when you're out in the wild. The creatures you're going to be fighting here, at least based on my experience, are going to be mostly, normal animals like deers, rabbits, rats, raccoons. So if PETA really didn't like the Pokemon games, they're really going to love this one. And you're not just making them faint, you're killing them and harvesting their organs, or harvesting their body parts, I should say. There are also a few mythical creatures there as well, and from what I can tell, their appearance tends to get more common as you progress into the game. And some of these mythical creatures would include mimics, goblins, nymphs, that sort of thing. The battle system is where the Edge of Allegoria really distinguishes itself from Pokemon. And I'm not just saying that because of the MC's bloodlust or his eagerness to open up a can of whoop ass. Though that certainly is a part of it. I mean, could you imagine if in the Pokemon games, Red started every battle with, "Let's ice this motherfucker," or "Let's be the definition of fuck around and find out." Yeah, those battles would have much different energy, fam. And yeah, that is part of the reason why I do like the battle system here. However, what really makes this aspect of the game so unique is that there are no teams here. So unlike in Pokemon or Final Fantasy, you're on your own. So you have to level up the MC, and instead of having like a team to switch out, you equip him with different abilities. So throughout your journey, you're going to have opportunities where you can either find new weapons or even buy weapons, and you can equip them. And that's how you get stronger, or that's how you improve yourself. But that's it. There are no teams here, and also your enemies aren't going to have teams either, or at least that's what I've encountered so far. So the battles here are going to be one-on-one. And the weapons themselves, it's not just as simple as picking up a new weapon and equipping it, but you have a time period in which you have to become familiar with it. And the more familiar you become with the weapon, the better equipped you are to use it. And in my opinion, that adds a good depth to the game. Now, after winning a battle, you don't collect money, but as I mentioned earlier, you're going to harvest some of their body parts. And you're going to take those body parts to the local mart or local store that you're going to find in the various towns, and you're going to sell them for money. Or in some cases, you may even give them to an NPC. And lastly here, you're not trying to catch them all. There's not like a Pokedex you're trying to fill out. However, you do have a bestiary. A bestiary. I think that's how you pronounce it. But anyway, this thing will record all of the beasts that you've seen so far. Now, I'm not sure what purpose it serves besides that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see in that regards. Now, lastly, I just want to share my final thoughts here on things I really enjoy about this game. What I really love here is the writing and the world building. And in all honesty, that's what has me the most excited for this game, fam. As I've mentioned time and time again here on my channel, humor is very much subjective. So what I find funny, you might not, and that's okay. But the humor here is right up my alley. And the absurdist, random humor really clicks with me here, fam. It really, really clicks with me. And for me, this is it, Chief. This is it. This is on point. And this whole time, I couldn't help but just, think about some other great, absurdist classics, like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, for example. At some points in time, I kind of liken the MC to Carl, who's in this absurd, crazy world, and he has to deal with all this bullshit, while also bringing his own level of absurdity. Also, and this can probably be seen from my love of adult animated comedies, like, for example, Beavis and Butthead, Family Guy, South Park. I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of crude humor, adult humor. And this project is filled to the brim with adult humor. Fam, I would love to see the Edge of Allegoria become an adult animated series one day. The writing here, it would be right at home on Adult Swim, or maybe even Comedy Central. But I would love to see that shit. Anyway, I can't get sidetracked. Let's get back to the game. Now, the world building here in the Edge of Allegoria is so far my favorite world building in any RPG game. Now, for me, when it comes to world building, lore is important. Don't get me wrong. Lore is important. But what's also important to me is the small little details, like the things that the characters, or the main character in this case, will interact with. Like, for example, whenever you're walking, there's these directional signs that give you directions. However, you can see that somebody has written graffiti on all the signs, and this graffiti says, "Eat ass." I love the main character. That's the other big thing here that I really, really love. I love how he's not just a blank slate like the main character always is, or at least he always was in the first 4 generations of Pokemon. I love how he actually has a personality. He reacts. He not only reacts, I should say, to the absurdity he sees in the world around him, but he also brings his own as well. And that just adds to the hilarity of the situation. And lastly, I just want to talk about the energy. I absolutely love the chaotic energy of this project. You never know what's going to happen next. You never know what kind of crazy, random ass shit the MC is going to come across. And that really what keeps me playing. I mean, it's a fun game, but that hilarity is a huge part of it. And just to kind of end this segment off, I just want to leave this with a clip that illustrates all the things that I just talked about just a moment ago. The world building, the characters, reaction to the absurdity of the world he lives in, and just the complete random shit. As well as also showcasing two of my favorite NPCs that I've encountered so far. To close, I just want to say I am beyond stoked for this game. Button Factory Games, please keep up the good work and please maintain the same energy throughout the rest of this project. I am so hyped for this game to drop. I look forward to playing it. It's going to be one of my favorites of all time. I know it's definitely going to be my favorite RPG of all time. So please keep up the good work, and I look forward to checking this out when the full game releases. Be sure to give both the Edge of Allegoria and Average Joe, who is the man behind Button Factory Games, a follow on Twitter at the links below. And be sure to check out the demo of the Edge of Allegoria. It's available on both Steam and itch.io. And also be sure to wishlist the Edge of Allegoria on Steam. Wishlisting games is a great way to support indie developers. A special thanks to Fran, who does a wonderful job of doing my art. She's back on Twitter, so please give her a follow at the link below. A special thanks to all of my friends on Twitter. I wouldn't be here without you all. And most importantly, a special thank you to all of you for watching. Please like this video if you liked it. Dislike it if you dislike it. Feel free to comment below and let me know what you think. And if you like my content, please subscribe and turn your notifications on. Until next time, fam, remember, just be yourself and you'll be awesome. Peace out.